Welcome to Miss Scarlett. Subscribe and don't miss out on Patreon. Have fun! In the golden hour of twilight, the warmth of the sun's rays seeped through the vertical blinds, creating intricate patterns on the hardwood floor. With unsteady hands, she meticulously adjusted the satin shirt, its ivory hue contrasting her dark skirt. A soft breath, laden with anticipation, caused the delicate knot at her collar to momentarily unravel. "Stay calm," she whispered encouragingly, her voice, once hardened by years of conformity, now sweet and melodic. She studied her reflection, a portrait of metamorphosis. The mirror no longer reflected the person with cropped brunette hair and stern features that had once been a shield. Instead, a vision of elegance emerged, as if a caterpillar had become a butterfly. The graceful sway of her newly styled chestnut locks framed delicate facial contours, meticulously enhanced with subtle cosmetics, perfecting a feminine voice until it no longer cracked under pressure. All in preparation for this day, the day Logan would step out into the world as Lucia. The resume sitting on the coffee table bore the name Lucia Bennett. The administrative position at Westfield Publishing required someone detail-oriented, organized, and professional, all qualities that Logan possessed in abundance. But today, those qualities would be presented by Lucia. The interview was scheduled for 2 o'clock. The clock on the microwave read 12:45. There was still time for one final rehearsal. "Hello, I'm Lucia Bennett," practiced the voice, hitting the right pitch and cadence. "I'm very interested in the administrative position at Westfield. My 5 years of experience in office management has prepared me to handle the diverse responsibilities this role requires." Another deep breath. The reflection in the mirror nodded back, auburn hair catching the light as it swayed with the movement. Wait, auburn? The wig had been described as brunette when purchased, but the sunlight revealed auburn highlights dancing through the strands. The warm, reddish-brown tone actually suited the complexion better than expected. A quick adjustment to the wig, ensuring it was properly secured, then a final check of the outfit. The cream blouse and camel skirt created a professional, understated look, exactly what was needed for a first impression. Not too flashy, not too forgettable. The journey to the publishing house took 45 minutes by bus. Each stop brought new passengers who glanced briefly, then looked away. No double takes. No confused stares. Just the ordinary disinterest of strangers passing each other in a city. Each moment of normalcy built confidence. Westfield Publishing occupied 3 floors of a glass and steel building downtown. The lobby directory indicated the Human Resources Department was on the 5th floor. Inside the elevator, a small group of professionals stood in comfortable silence. One woman in a charcoal pantsuit offered a polite smile. "Job interview?" she asked, noticing the portfolio clutched in nervous hands. "Yes, administrative assistant position." "Good luck," she said, as the elevator doors opened at her floor. "You look great, by the way. Very professional." The compliment, so casual yet so affirming, sent a wave of relief through every tense muscle. Someone had seen Lucia and found nothing unusual or out of place. The HR waiting area featured muted gray walls adorned with framed book covers, bestsellers published by Westfield over the years. A receptionist looked up from her computer. "May I help you? I'm Lucia Bennett. I have an interview at 2 o'clock with Ms. Rivera." The receptionist checked her screen and nodded. "Please have a seat. She'll be with you shortly." The next 10 minutes stretched like hours. The portfolio contained copies of Logan's resume with the name changed, along with reference letters that had been carefully edited. The administrative experience was genuine. Logan had excelled in similar roles for years. Only the presentation was different today. Ms. Bennett? A woman in her 40s with a sleek bob and stylish glasses appeared in the doorway. I'm Teresa Rivera, HR Director. Please come with me. Walking in heels across the polished floor required concentration. Months of practice had built muscle memory, but nervousness threatened to undo it all. One step at a time. Heel, toe, heel, toe. Maintain posture. Don't swing arms too widely. Our interview panel today includes myself, Daniel from Operations, and Vivian, who would be your direct supervisor, Ms. Rivera explained as they entered a conference room. 3 people sat around a small table. Ms. Rivera took her seat, leaving one chair empty for the interviewee. Everyone, this is Lucia Bennett. Handshakes, polite smiles, professional nods, then the moment of truth as they all sat down and the interview began. So, Ms. Bennett, tell us about your experience in administrative roles, began Daniel, a middle-aged man with salt and pepper hair. The practiced voice emerged steadily. I've worked in administrative support for 5 years, most recently at Hawthorne Associates, where I managed calendar scheduling for 3 executives, coordinated travel arrangements, and prepared reports and presentations. As the words flowed, something remarkable happened. The nervousness began to fade. The panel listened attentively, asking follow-up questions about specific experiences and skills. They weren't scrutinizing appearances or listening for voice inconsistencies. They were genuinely interested in qualifications. Your resume mentions experience with the Springer database system, said Vivian, a woman with a warm smile and silver bangles that clinked softly when she moved her hands. We've recently transitioned to that platform. How comfortable are you with its reporting functions? Very comfortable. At Hawthorne, I created monthly analytics reports using Springer's custom report builder. I also trained 2 new staff members on the system. Daniel leaned forward. What would you say is your approach to handling confidential information? Discretion is paramount. In my previous roles, I had access to sensitive financial data and personnel files. I follow strict protocols for information security and believe that maintaining confidentiality is a core responsibility of administrative staff. The questions continued for 45 minutes. With each answer, Lucia became more real, more complete. This wasn't just a disguise or a costume. This was an authentic expression of self that had been hidden for too long. When asked about strengths, Lucia highlighted organizational skills and attention to detail. When asked about weaknesses, she admitted to occasionally being too perfectionistic, but explained how she'd learned to balance thoroughness with efficiency. Never once did the panel members exchange puzzled glances or appear confused by the person sitting before them. They saw a qualified professional in a cream blouse and camel skirt. They saw Lucia. Do you have any questions for us? Ms. Rivera asked as the interview wound down. I'd love to know more about the company culture at Westfield. What qualities do successful team members typically share? Vivian's silver bangles jingled as she gestured. We value initiative and collaboration. Our administrative staff aren't just support personnel. They're integral to our operations. The person in this role would work closely with our editorial and marketing teams, so strong communication skills are essential. After a few more exchanges, Ms. Rivera stood. Thank you for coming in today, Ms. Bennett. We're interviewing several candidates this week and expect to make a decision by next Friday. We'll be in touch either way. Another round of handshakes. Another walk across the polished floor. Heel toe. Heel toe. The elevator ride down felt weightless. Outside, the late afternoon sun warmed the city streets. Finding a quiet coffee shop a few blocks away, Lucia ordered a latte and sat by the window, replaying every moment of the interview. There had been no awkward questions, no suspicious glances. They had seen her, truly seen her, as she wished to be seen. The auburn hair caught the barista's attention as he delivered the latte to the table. "Nice color," he commented. "Natural?" A moment's hesitation, then, "Yes, thank you." The lie felt like a small one. Perhaps not even a lie at all. The auburn hair felt right, felt natural in a way that transcended its origins. The phone buzzed with a text message from the only friend who knew about today's interview. "How did it go?" Fingers tapped out a reply. "They saw me. The real me." 3 days later, the call came. Ms. Rivera's voice was warm through the phone. "Ms. Bennett, I'm pleased to inform you that we'd like to offer you the position at Westfield Publishing." The world seemed to stop. "I'm honored. Thank you so much for this opportunity. We were impressed with your experience and professionalism. Vivian particularly noted your attention to detail and communication skills. Could you start 2 weeks from Monday?" "Yes, absolutely." "Wonderful. I'll email you the formal offer letter today. We're looking forward to having you join our team." After the call ended, the apartment felt too small to contain the emotions swirling inside. Joy, vindication, terror. This wasn't just a job offer. It was an affirmation, but also a commitment. Lucia couldn't be a temporary identity now. She would need to exist day after day, week after week. Logan had lived as Logan for 32 years. That life had been comfortable in some ways, but always felt like wearing clothes in the wrong size. Functional, but never quite right. Now, the prospect of living as Lucia full-time loomed both thrilling and overwhelming. The next 2 weeks passed in a flurry of preparation. A shopping trip expanded the professional wardrobe. 2 more skirts in navy and black, several blouses in complementary colors, and a tailored blazer for important meetings. The auburn wig was professionally adjusted for daily wear, and a stylist offered advice on maintenance. Voice exercises continued every morning and evening. Makeup techniques were refined for efficiency. Each element of Lucia became more polished, more natural. The night before the first day of work, sleep proved elusive. The closet door stood open, revealing the outfit selected for tomorrow: a pale blue blouse with pearl buttons, the navy skirt, and the same brown pumps from the interview, now considered lucky. Morning arrived with first-day jitters that felt both familiar and entirely new. The auburn hair was carefully styled, falling in soft waves just above the shoulders. Makeup was applied with a steady hand, foundation, subtle contouring, mascara, and a natural pink lipstick. The pale blue blouse complemented the navy skirt perfectly, and pearl earrings added a touch of elegance. The ID badge waiting at security read, "Lucia Bennett," beside a photo taken during the second visit to HR. The security guard barely glanced up as he activated the badge and handed it over. "5th floor, right?" he asked. "Yes, thank you." The weight of the badge, clipped to the blouse, felt significant. Official. Real. Vivian was waiting by the elevators. "Lucia! Welcome to your first day. Love the blouse, by the way. That blue is perfect with your hair." The compliment brought warmth to cheeks already touched with blush. "Thank you. I'm excited to get started." "Let me show you to your desk, and then we'll get your computer access set up. The team is looking forward to meeting you." The office buzzed with Monday morning energy. People hurried between cubicles, clutching coffee cups and calling greetings to each other. Vivian led the way to a desk positioned outside an office with her name on the door. "This is your space," she explained. You'll be supporting me primarily, but also helping the editorial team with various projects. Let me introduce you around." What followed was a whirlwind of names and faces. Editorial assistants, marketing coordinators, the IT support team. Everyone offered welcoming smiles and handshakes. No one showed a flicker of doubt or confusion. By lunchtime, email was flowing into a new inbox labeled Lucia Bennett. The computer password had been set, and a stack of files waited for review. Vivian stopped by the desk. "A few of us usually grab lunch at the cafe downstairs on Mondays. Would you like to join?" The invitation brought both excitement and anxiety. The interview had gone well, but lunch meant conversation, personal questions, the potential for slips. "I'd love to," came the careful reply. The cafe was crowded, but cozy. Vivian and two editors, Marie from fiction and Patrick from nonfiction, claimed a table near the window. Conversation flowed easily around publishing deadlines and an author who was becoming difficult about cover designs. "So, Lucia," Marie turned her attention to the newest team member. "What brought you to publishing?" "I've always loved books," came the honest answer. "I studied English literature in college, and while I found I had a talent for organization rather than writing, I wanted to be part of bringing stories to readers." "English lit major here, too." Patrick raised his water glass in solidarity. "Though I spent more time with Joyce and Woolf than with my actual classmates." Marie laughed. "Patrick's our resident intellectual. Don't let him draw you into debates about modernist literature unless you have an hour to spare." The conversation shifted to office logistics, the temperamental coffee machine, the best times to avoid printer traffic, which vendor had the best sandwiches for lunch meetings. It felt ordinary, mundane even, and in that mundanity was something precious. Acceptance, without question. That first day established a pattern. Each morning, Logan's clothes were left hanging in the back of the closet, while Lucia's outfits took center stage. The auburn hair became a signature. Colleagues would say things like, "Ask Lucia, the one with the gorgeous auburn hair," when directing visitors. Weeks passed, then months. Lucia's life expanded beyond work. A women's book club that met Thursday evenings welcomed her warmly. A friendship with Marie from editorial grew into weekend coffee dates and occasional shopping excursions. Logan's apartment gradually transformed too. Male clothing migrated to storage boxes. The decor evolved to reflect Lucia's developing taste. Softer colors, better lighting, plants on the windowsills. The medicine cabinet now held skincare products and makeup removers instead of shaving cream. Then came an unexpected invitation. Vivian stopped by the desk one Friday afternoon. "Lucia, my sister is getting married next month, and I'd love for you to come as my plus one. The whole team is practically family to me, and you've become such an important part of everything we do here." The invitation sparked panic. A wedding meant hours of socializing, possibly meeting people who might have known Vivian for years, who might somehow see through what others had accepted without question. "That's so kind of you to include me," Lucia managed. "I'd be honored." That evening, staring at the closet that now held only women's clothing, the magnitude of the past 6 months came into focus. Logan existed now only in memories and documentation, driver's license, birth certificate, the lease on the apartment. In every other way, Lucia had become real. The following weeks brought a new challenge, finding appropriate wedding attire. Marie offered to help, and they spent a Saturday at department stores and boutiques. "What about this one?" Marie held up a forest green dress with a sweetheart neckline. "I'm not sure about the cut." Lucia hesitated. Some styles still presented challenges for a body not shaped by female hormones. "You're right," Marie agreed, returning it to the rack. "With your coloring, You should try something in blue or purple, and maybe an A-line silhouette. 3 stores later, they found it. A royal blue cocktail dress with 3/4 sleeves, a modest neckline, and a flared skirt that hit just below the knee. The color made the auburn hair seem to glow. "That's the one," Marie declared. "You look absolutely stunning." Looking in the dressing room mirror, Lucia saw not a man in a dress, but a woman. Composed, elegant, real. The transformation that had begun as external had gradually become internal too. The nervous adjustments and constant self-monitoring had given way to genuine confidence. The day of the wedding arrived warm and clear. The royal blue dress was paired with nude heels and a delicate silver necklace. The auburn hair was styled into an updo with a few soft tendrils framing the face. A professional makeup application completed the look. Vivian picked her up in a rideshare. "You look amazing," she exclaimed. "That blue is perfect on you." The ceremony took place in a garden pavilion decorated with white roses and silver ribbons. Guests chatted quietly as they waited for the bride's arrival. Vivian introduced Lucia to various family members and friends, all of whom were welcoming and warm. "This is my colleague Lucia," Vivian would say. "She keeps our entire department running smoothly." During the reception, seated at a table with other Westfield employees, the conversation turned to childhood memories. "I was such a tomboy," Marie laughed. "My poor mother tried everything to get me into dresses. Now I have a closet full of them." Others shared similar stories of childhood preferences and how they'd evolved. When expectant eyes turned to Lucia, a moment of panic threatened. "I was quiet as a child," she offered carefully. "Always reading, always observing. I guess some things don't change." The answer satisfied without revealing. The art of selective truth-telling had become second nature, sharing real aspects of personality and history while allowing listeners to fit those pieces into their own assumptions. Dancing began after dinner. Lucia had practiced this too, following rather than leading, smaller steps, different posture. When one of Vivian's cousins asked her to dance, she accepted with only slight hesitation. "I'm Richard," he introduced himself as they moved to the music. "Vivian mentioned you work together." "Yes, I'm her administrative assistant. I've been with Westfield for about 6 months now." "You have the most interesting hair color," he commented. "Is that what they call auburn? It's really striking." "Thank you," she replied, the compliment warming her cheeks. "It's natural." The lie didn't feel like a lie anymore. The auburn hair had become as much a part of her identity as any other feature. Somewhere along the way, the line between what was added and what was inherent had blurred. Richard's company proved pleasant through 2 more dances. He was polite, asked thoughtful questions, and seemed genuinely interested in her responses. When he asked for her number at the end of the evening, the moment of decision arrived without warning. Dating had seemed a distant concern, something to consider only after other aspects of transition were settled. But here was an opportunity, unexpected and real. "I'd like that," she found herself saying, and they exchanged numbers. Later that night, in the quiet of the apartment, the weight of the day settled in. The wedding had been a milestone, hours spent in social interaction without a single questioning glance or moment of doubt from others. And now, a potential date with someone who saw only Lucia. The question of disclosure loomed large. If things progressed with Richard, when and how would that conversation happen? The possibility brought fresh anxiety, but also a strange sense of normalcy. These were the ordinary concerns of relationship beginnings, just with an additional layer of complexity. A text message arrived from Richard the next day. "It was great meeting you yesterday. Would you like to get coffee next weekend?" The response required little deliberation. "I'd enjoy that. Saturday afternoon?" Their coffee date was scheduled for a small cafe near the park. The week leading up to it passed with heightened awareness of every detail: the outfits chosen for work, the careful maintenance of the auburn hair, the daily rituals that had become second nature. Saturday arrived with perfect fall weather. Lucia chose casual elegance for the date: dark jeans, a soft cream sweater, ankle boots, and a burgundy scarf that complemented the auburn hair. The makeup was lighter than for work, but still carefully applied. Richard was already waiting when she arrived at the cafe. He stood and waved her over to a table by the window.
"You look lovely,"
he said as she approached.
"That scarf brings out the highlights in your hair."
"Thank you. It's good to see you again." Conversation flowed easily between them. Richard worked in architectural design, loved old films, and had traveled extensively through South America. He asked questions about her work at Westfield, her interest in books, her hobbies outside the office. "I'm part of a women's book club," she told him. "We meet every other Thursday. Right now we're reading classics we somehow missed in school." "What's the current selection?" "Middlemarch. I'm enjoying it more than I expected to. The character development is remarkable." 2 hours passed before either noticed the time. When Richard suggested a walk in the nearby park, Lucia agreed readily. The afternoon sun cast long shadows across the paths as they strolled, occasionally brushing shoulders.
"Would you like to have dinner next weekend?"
Richard asked as they completed their circuit of the park. "There's a new Italian place on Elm Street I've been wanting to try." The invitation represented another step forward, another extension of Lucia's life beyond work and carefully managed social settings. It also represented increased risk. More time together meant more opportunities for questions about past experiences, childhood, family. "I'd like that," she answered, choosing possibility over caution. Their dinner date the following weekend led to a movie the weekend after that. With each meeting, Richard revealed more of himself: his close relationship with his sister, his passion for sustainable design, his dry sense of humor. Lucia shared carefully curated stories from her own life, focusing on recent experiences and universal aspects of human nature, rather than specific details that might raise questions. After a month of dating, Richard invited her to his apartment for dinner. He cooked pasta primavera while she sat at the kitchen counter, sipping wine and watching him move confidently around the space.
"My mother insisted all her children learn to cook,"
he explained as he chopped vegetables. "She said she wasn't raising helpless adults who couldn't feed themselves properly." "She sounds wise," Lucia smiled. "My cooking skills are functional but not inspired."
"What about your family?"
Richard asked. "Are you close with them?" The question was inevitable, but still brought a moment of tension. Family relationships were complicated for many reasons. "We're not as close as I'd like," she answered truthfully. "There's been distance over some of my life choices." Richard looked up from his chopping.
"I'm sorry to hear that. Family complications can be painful."
"They can," she agreed. "But we create our own families too, don't we? The people who accept us as we are become just as important." He nodded. "I feel fortunate that my family has always been supportive, but I know many people who've had to build their own support networks." The conversation shifted to more casual topics, but the exchange had opened a door. Lucia began to consider what honest disclosure might look like, what risks it would entail, and what possibilities it might create. 2 more weeks passed, bringing them closer. Small touches became more frequent, a hand on the small of her back as they walked, fingers brushing as they reached for the same item, a goodbye kiss that lingered. After a concert downtown, they returned to Richard's apartment. The evening had been perfect, music they both enjoyed, dinner at a restaurant where the staff now recognized them, comfortable conversation that flowed without effort. Sitting close on his couch, her auburn hair catching the lamplight, Lucia felt a decision approaching, one that would require vulnerability beyond anything she'd risked so far. "Richard," she began, her voice soft but steady.
"I care about you. I think we might be building something important here." "I feel the same way,"
he said, his eyes warm.
"You've become very special to me."
"There's something I need to share with you. Something about my past." His expression grew serious, attentive.
"I'm listening."
The words had been rehearsed in private moments, considered from every angle. Now they needed to be spoken aloud. "The person you've gotten to know these past months is the real me, my authentic self. But it wasn't always possible for me to live as my true self. For most of my life, I presented differently to the world." Understanding dawned slowly in his eyes.
"You're telling me you're transgender?"
The directness of the question was almost a relief. "Yes. I began living fully as Lucia only about a year ago. My colleagues at Westfield have only known me as I am now." Richard was quiet for a moment, processing.
"Thank you for trusting me with this. I wanted to be honest with you before things between us progressed further. I understand if this changes how you feel."
He took her hand, his thumb brushing over her knuckles. "It doesn't change how I feel about the person I've come to know. The woman with the thoughtful perspectives on books, the dry wit, the amazing auburn hair." Relief flooded through her, but caution remained. "You might have questions, or need time to think." "I do have questions," he admitted. "But only because I want to understand your experience better. Not because I'm questioning who you are. I've been falling for Lucia, the real you. That doesn't change with this new context." They talked for hours. Richard asked about her journey, listening with genuine interest as she shared parts of her story she had never voiced aloud to anyone. She explained the gradual realization, the careful steps toward living authentically, the job interview that had been a turning point. "That took incredible courage," he said, when she described walking into Westfield Publishing for the first time as Lucia. "To trust yourself enough to take that leap." "It felt like finally being able to breathe properly," she told him. "Like I'd been holding my breath for years without realizing it." As the night grew late, their conversation gradually shifted from disclosure to dreams for the future. Richard spoke of eventually starting his own architectural firm focused on environmentally responsible design. Lucia shared her hope of someday moving into editorial work at the publishing house. When she finally prepared to leave, Richard walked her to the door.
"Nothing has changed for me,"
he said, cupping her face gently.
"Except that I respect you even more now."
The kiss they shared felt like a beginning. Not the beginning of Lucia, who had existed long before being acknowledged by the outside world, but the beginning of a relationship built on authenticity and acceptance. Walking home under streetlights, Lucia reflected on the journey that had brought her here. From secret practice sessions in a locked apartment to a life fully lived. From terror of being seen to the joy of being truly seen. The auburn hair that had once been part of a careful disguise now felt as natural as breathing. The cream sweater and dark jeans weren't a costume, but simply clothes that felt right on her body. The woman walking home wasn't playing a role, but living her truth. When Logan had practiced his feminine presentation all those months ago, preparing for an interview as Lucia, he couldn't have known that he was taking the first steps toward becoming his authentic self permanently. That the interview outfit, cream blouse with its subtle bow, camel skirt, tan pantyhose, and brown pumps, would be the beginning rather than a temporary disguise. Now, there was no Logan, only Lucia with her auburn hair and growing confidence. A woman with a promising career, a supportive circle of friends, and now, a relationship built on honesty and mutual respect. The apartment that had once been a solitary practice space was now simply home. Tomorrow, she would meet Marie for their regular Sunday brunch. Next week, she would present a project proposal to the editorial team at Westfield. The following weekend, she and Richard would visit the botanical gardens. Ordinary life, real life, her life. The key turned in the lock, and Lucia Bennett stepped into her future.
Thanks for watching, my girlies! Be sure to check out Patreon for more!